why if I ruled the world? Because a song pops into my head when I hear that, if I ruled the world. Why did you call it If I Ruled the World?
That is the song that should pop in your head. That is true.
Is a television concept or a movie concept part of the bigger plan of this release of I Ruled the World?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a very big...
You gotta say, Rashawn. No, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't play about, I don't play about my goals, Rashawn. I'm over here manifesting big things, sir.
I'm gonna just tell you, this brilliant person tend to undersell herself. And I go, I don't get this. Like, she just went,
Rashawn, I was over at Essence, and then with Honey, and I went to Teen People's Magazine.
Oh, really? You went from black, white, like that. Black, white. And we just supposed to think that was just like normal. You can go white, black. But black, white, that's something's happening there. My guest made history as the first Black woman to helm a major mainstream U.S. magazine and as deputy editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar. She's held senior leadership roles at Paramount, Hearst, Disney, Time Inc., and several independently owned brands. Now she has a highly anticipated debate novel, If I Ruled the World. Please welcome to the Money Making Conversation Masterclass, Amy DuBois Barnett.
So nice to be here, Rashawn. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I got the Du Bois right, correct?
Yes, you did. My W.E.B. Du Bois is my namesake, so that's why we say Du Bois.
Get that right on the book. I don't want people to be looking for Amy Barnett and Mr. G. See, right there, if I say it's right, then you type that in, it's going to come directly to you because you're one of a kind, correct?
I appreciate you, sir. And I'm proud of my middle name. Again, I'm named after W.E.B. Du Bois, so I'd like to use my whole name.
Well, when I said some really amazing things, and I've known you over the years and followed your career. I followed you through the injured leg and all that stuff.
Lord have mercy.
And but you're very humble. But you've been in a very competitive industry. How do you balance that, Amy?
It's interesting because it is one of the things that I talk to people that I mentor about, right? I talk to people about the energy that you put back in the world and the way that comes back to you. And the fact that, all of it is sort of circular and you have to really be intentional about the way that you walk through the world, right? So I think that the way that you are treating people around you is the kind of energy that you're going to get yourself as it comes back to you. And the other thing is, I really spent a lot of time over the course of my career humanizing success.
Right.
I think that for a lot of people, they look at, those folks who have had certain kinds of professional accomplishments, and they think that these people are different, or they're somehow, I don't want to say better, but they just have a sort of a different set of experiences or what have you. And, my goal throughout a lot of my career has been to help people understand that we all make mistakes. Like, nobody is better than anybody else. We are out here flawed and just trying to find success, find love, find fulfillment the same as everybody else. And that was actually one of the reasons why I started writing my editor's letters at Honey magazine. That was actually my first editor-in-chief job.
Uh-huh.
So when I started writing my editor's letters at Honey magazine,
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I wasn't going to do the normal editor's letters where you say, okay, well, on page 53 is a great beauty story. On page 25 is a great fashion story. Instead, I chose to use that magazine real estate to talk about my own stories and my failures and the lessons that I've learned and the insights I wanted to impart. So, it's part of who I am, and it's part of what I want to leave with the world.
It's great because I feel that's a transition to your novel, which is in a different period in the 90s. You entitled it If I Ruled the World. Is that correct?
Yes, If I Ruled the World.
If I Ruled the World. Why If I Ruled the World? Because a song pops into my head when I hear that, If I Ruled the World. Why did you call it If I Ruled the World?
That is the song that should pop in your head. That is true. So as you mentioned before, I do have a career in media. So I am a 3-time editor-in-chief. I was editor-in-chief of Honey magazine. I was editor-in-chief of Teen People magazine. And I was editor-in-chief of Ebony magazine. And I was deputy editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar. And so this particular novel has been in my head for years. And it is about a woman who works at a fashion magazine and eventually becomes the editor-in-chief of a, urban women's music and lifestyle magazine called Sugar, somewhat similar to Honey magazine, if you will. And so somewhat similar. And, initially the book was called Sugar, right after the fictional magazine that my protagonist edits. But I was like, I don't know if that's really conveying what this book is about, because my protagonist is a complicated, ambitious, flawed woman who is trying to achieve her professional goals, who is trying to find love, who is fighting enemies, who has, complicated relationships with her friends. She's dealing with misogyny and hip hop. And so she is really on a journey that is about finding herself, coming into her own, and you really, kind of understanding the world in which she belongs. And so the title, I love the title of, obviously it's a Nas song, right? So the title is, really about like, if I rule the world. To me, it was like evocative of like the journey that my protagonist is taking. And then I was also thinking, well, who are the music artists who were popular, right, during that time? Obviously Nas, right? I mean, he is still popular, but in the late 90s and early 2000s when my book is set, he was incredibly popular. And this song features Lauryn Hill, who we all love and revere, and who was also a little sort of, kind of low, small reference. Coincidentally, Lauryn Hill was the very first cover of Honey magazine back in the day. So there's lots of references.
So a lot of personal references. I think that makes for a great story. That means that you are more authentic, like you stated earlier when we were referencing Black history and Black information that's being denied to the general public by a lot of sources nowadays. But I think that that's why when I heard about the book, and it's on pre-order, right?
Yes, so it's available for pre-order now wherever you buy books online.
How does that pre-order work? How does that work now? Because I know that's important. I've been fortunate to be part of 2 bestsellers, Steve Harvey's Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man bestseller. Pre-orders played a major role in that. And Stephen A. Smith's Straight Shooter, which is a New York Times bestseller, pre-orders played a major role in that. Tell us why pre-orders are that important to the success of your book initially.
Yes, sir. So pre-orders are critical for all authors, but particularly debut authors. I'm not a debut author. I did write a nonfiction book, but I'm a debut novelist. And so what happens is that all of the orders. So for those of us who have goals of being on bestseller lists, like for me, being on a bestseller list is would be the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. Let's just put it that way. And my book officially goes on sale, meaning it will start to ship January 27th, 2006, right? 2026. But all of the pre-orders that I get, so every time you guys pre-order my book between now and January 27th, all of those sales count toward the first week sales, right? And to get on bestseller lists, you need to have between 5,000 and 10,000 sales that first week. Yeah. And for debut novelists, it's incredibly difficult to get that level of sales in 1 week unless you have a really strong pre-order campaign. So that's why I'm super grateful for the support my book has already gotten, and for all the pre-orders you guys make between now and when it actually goes on sale. It will count toward the book's first week, and then it will drive the book towards success. So could not be more grateful for the support.
So I know it's a novel, but are you able to sell the importance of music and media in your book?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, in urban media, we were completely, intertwined with the music industry. So I like to say, I've been music industry adjacent for 20 years now. Most of the artists that I feature, earlier in my career were music artists. Most of my covers were music covers. I mean, Black Hollywood is, I don't say it's new, but, there's been a real rise of, Black Hollywood in the past, I'm going to say decade. But for so many years, music really drove everything that media did from a celebrity perspective. And even today, I mean, music drives culture, whereas Hollywood reflects culture. And you know how we love our music. So, when you look at urban publishing, you see magazines like, Honey Magazine, right? You see Vibe, you see Double XL, you see The Source. These were all magazines that centered around music. And this book in particular is very reflective of the culture of the time. And what that means is that it's not just about this woman's journey, it also has themes that talk about the music industry. So there's misogyny in hip hop, for example. We're seeing a kind of reckoning go on right now in the music industry. And this book reflects a lot of what female executives went through during that time. And so we're absolutely talking about that. I'm referencing a lot of music artists that were popular at the time. I also have fictional music artists that I'm talking about, who also kind of go through things, have a journeys themselves in the book. So it is very, very music related.
The interesting thing about this, Amy, because you're always a planner now, and female-driven concept.
That's how I know you know me, Rashad. You've been knowing me for a long time.
I go all the way back to, living single. I go all the way back there, okay? And you just come forward that have magazine driven. Is a television concept or a movie concept part of the bigger plan of this release of I Rule the World?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm a very visual.
You got to say, Rashad. No, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, I don't play about. I don't play about my goals, Rashad. Now I don't play about my goals. I'm over here manifesting big things, sir. So yes, and I'm also a very visual thinker. I'm a visual person, and so when I was writing the book, I was thinking visually. I was thinking about set pieces. I was thinking cinematically. So I absolutely see my book as a television series.
Let me ask you this, because when you write a book like this, it's kind of close to who you are. Okay, kind of close to who you are. Are you dropping kind of like a memoir type tone to it, or this is just so fictional? You just because this is what you did for a living, you can keep it accurate.
It's interesting. Many people will think that it's a roman à clé, meaning that it's about me, but it's actually not my story. It's just based in a world that I know extremely well, that I know better than almost anyone else.
Right.
And I have referenced certain aspects of my life and my journey, but it's not my story.
Right.
So, it's something that I know intimately and organically enough to be able to really talk about and to have written about with a lot of authenticity, but it's just not my personal journey.
Let me ask you this, Amy, because there are a lot of talented people out there. Like there are a lot of talented basketball players, athletes out there, but only a few break through. What is your qualities or your skill set? Because I got to put you at a skill set. There's a lot of people can dribble a basketball, a lot of people can dunk it, a lot of people can hit a baseball over the fence, but they can't hit it consistently. What enabled your rise in this industry? Is it a writing style you achieved? Or what? What qualities, if somebody's listening, trying to get into this business, that they have to stick to in order to even be considered a possibility of achieving success in this business?
That's interesting. Well, I think that this transcends media. It transcends, being an author. I think that, the qualities you need to be successful are universal across basically any industry, sports, medicine, law. I think that it's not just about having the skills and the experience to do whatever job it is you're trying to do. There's a separate success skill set that I talk about that is really something different, right? And a lot of that is about the energy, like I was saying earlier, but the energy that you put forth, right? It's not just about doing your job. It's about doing your job with an energy that makes people want to be around you. Like a lot of that it circles back to you in ways that you can't possibly imagine. It's kind of part of networking. Networking is definitely, intrinsic to that success skill set. But people think that networking is like going to these events and giving people a business card, and that's not what it is. It's about building relationships. It's about supporting people. It's about asking people what you can do for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about being kind. You and I have known each other for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You reached out to me for this, for which I am incredibly grateful, but that's because we have built a relationship over years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that people don't understand. It is really about having the kind of energy that people want to be around, building relationships, and then supporting people in your community. And the other thing I will say is that in terms of success, the universe will not give you an opportunity that you don't think you deserve. It just doesn't happen. So you have to believe that you deserve all of the opportunity, right? And then I'm putting in the work, right? And then I'm putting in the straight up work, right, to achieve it. So it's sort of energetically being authentic and being kind. It's envisioning your goal and manifesting it by understanding that you deserve it and then putting in the work.
Now, here's something interesting. She said we've been friends a long time, which she's accurately. We met in 2012 when I was producing the Steve Harvey talk show in Chicago, and she was at Ebony, and we used to meet once a week for breakfast. She's very particular. We got to meet once a week. She's very organized. We meet breakfast until we find the right place to eat. We would meet, but that was when print magazines mattered. Print magazines mattered, and now we're in an era. I have a two-part question for you. Okay, you've seen the transition from newsstand to digital. Explain to us the difference and the good it brought to your industry, and some things you felt were bad it brought to industry, especially black print.
It's true. I've been in both. I mean, I'm a magazine maker at my core. I love magazines. I think that it's like creating a piece of art every month, and I deeply respect, what magazine making is, because it's very dichotomous. It's textual and visual, and being editor-in-chief, it's creative and business. I mean, it's, in front of the camera, behind the camera. There's so many aspects to it that are complicated that you don't find as much in the digital universe. Now, I have run digital brands. I ran the Griot. I ran digital for BET. And what you do have in the digital world is an ability to put out a lot more information much more quickly. You know what I mean? So that is a good thing. I mean, there's speed to it. There's a volume to it. Basically limitless volume, to the amount of information you can put out. But what you lose is that kind of careful, thoughtful journalism that goes in creating something that's going to live forever. A magazine, once you have it, it exists, it lives forever. When you put something online, I mean, of course, there's great journalism on digital platforms, right, but there is a lot of journalism that's much more rushed because you can change it. It doesn't have to stay up forever. You can take it down. People won't see it. It doesn't. It's more ephemeral. Whereas magazines have a permanence that made you incredibly careful. Everybody who went into producing magazines made us all incredibly careful with what we put forth. So, and I also miss the visual aspect of it too. I miss the photo shoots. I miss the cover shoots. That's something that, again, you don't really get as much in the digital world, at least not to the same extent. You have video, which is fabulous, but you don't have those same kind of fashion shoots that really characterize magazines.
I'm speaking to Amy DuBois Barnett. She is in history, first black woman to helm a major mainstream U.S. magazine. That's big, y'all. And as deputy editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar, she held senior leadership roles at Paramount, Hearst, Disney, just to name a few. Just a lot. I met her in Chicago when she was running the helm of Ebony magazine at the time. She has a new book out. It's called If I Ruled the World. And I say book out means that you can go pre-order it right now prior to being released. And that's why she's on the show. Tell us about that book, get the word out, get these pre-orders lined up. So guess what? She can be on the New York Times bestseller list, and we can see her show eventually on television, on the big screen. That's the end goal. But one thing I do know about Amy, and I've been a part of her life for the last 13 years, you understand pivoting, you understand, and I talk about that a lot on my show, because a lot of people don't know when to jump or understand when opportunities in that current location publication is changing, they don't understand. They might devalue themselves and think it's all on them. Let's talk about pivoting and understanding how you can maintain a balance that is not about you and you continue to be successful because it is about you.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I have pivoted throughout my life, throughout my career, in my personal life. I've lived in 13 cities on 3 continents. But in my professional life, I actually started off my career in finance, and then I, spent some time in the fashion industry, and then I got a graduate degree in creative writing, an MFA, and started a 20-year approximate career in media. And even within media, I pivoted multiple times. I started off as the fashion and beauty features editor for Essence magazine. And then I pitched and eventually became the editor-in-chief of Honey magazine. And then I became the editor-in-chief of Teen People, right, which was a pivot, right, because I'd gone from Essence and Honey, which were Black and urban magazines, to Teen People, which was a mainstream magazine. And that's where I became the first Black woman to run a major mainstream magazine. That's the Teen People was the teen version of People magazine.
Now that's key. Let's not understate that, because this is because people can like stereotype you and like say, hey, now that's why I keep talking. One thing I always know, Amy, even when we met every week, she sit across from me and I'm looking at this. I'm gonna just tell you, this brilliant person tend to undersell herself. And I go, I don't get this. Like she just went, Rashawn, I was over at Essence and then with Honey and I went to Teen People's magazine. Oh, really? You went from black, white, like that. Black, white. And we just supposed to think that was just like normal. You can go white, black. But black, white, nah, that's something's happening there. So talk to us, Miss Authentic. Okay, Miss I Rule the World author. Okay, just be real now. There's some skill there, and not this casual conversation of being in the room and being able to meet people and doing the hard work. You had to hustle, and you had to keep submitting. Oof. Come on now.
Oh, yeah. Let me listen. That's why I was trying to talk to you about it in this sort of pivoting conversation, because it was not just a pivot, but you're right. It was some work. So let's just keep it a buck, right? Let's just talk about it. So when I was editor-in-chief of Honey magazine, there was an organization, and it still exists, called the American Society for Magazine Editors. The acronym is ASME. And that is the most prestigious organization in the magazine and publishing and, frankly, media world, right? You can only be a part of that organization if you are an executive editor or above. So basically the top 2 positions on a masthead of a respected magazine. That is the only way that you are admitted into this organization. Wow. They weren't admitting people in this organization from like Vibe, the source. They were not admitting, maybe Vibe, I guess, eventually people came in. I mean, eventually they started opening up, but largely because I hustled and I formed relationships, and I did what I had to do basically to get myself admitted to this organization. I had to volunteer for the events. I judged, the ASME, again, that's their acronym for American Society of Magazine Editors. They had an award every year called the Ellys. I judged the Ellys for them, and I proved myself time and again, so that they eventually admitted me into the organization, right? And that opened up an incredible number of doors. So when I was admitted into the organization as the editor-in-chief of Honey, again, breaking ground, because they were not letting in people from urban magazines at that time. So when I got admitted to the organization, at that point, I started to make, not just do the work, right? Not just prove myself in these rooms with all these editors, which is, by the way, a little scary, right? I'm in there with the editor-in-chief of the New Yorker, the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic, the editor-in-chief of the Washington Post, the editor-in-chief, do you see what I mean? The editor-in-chief of Vanity Fair. And me, the editor-in-chief of Honey magazine, judging the Ellie Awards, making commentary about the future of the industry. I had to prove myself, to be a worthy colleague. And when I did so, that's when the people at Time Inc., that at that time owned People magazine and Teen People magazine, that's when they took note. And they started to talk to me about coming on board to Time Inc. Because they recognized that I understood culture. They knew that I was a good editor. They saw that I could generate ideas and that I was strategic. but it took a lot of hustle and then a lot of proving myself and a lot of being confident too. I had to walk in those rooms with confidence, with the energy of somebody who belonged. If I walked in with the energy of somebody who felt unsure about, what I was doing there, if I looked as scared as I felt, then I would not have gotten the respect of the people who then recruited me to be the editor-in-chief of Teen People.
There you go. She's Amy Barnett. Now, Amy, as we close out our interview, let's recap this fantastic book that's coming out. Pre-orders are available right now. If I Ruled the World. Give us a recap on it. It's set in the 90s.
So my debut novel, If I Ruled the World, is set at the intersection of hip-hop and fashion and magazine culture in New York City in the late 1990s and early 2000s. And it's about a woman named Nikki who goes from, being an editor at a high-end fashion magazine and not finding her voice there to eventually becoming the editor-in-chief of a magazine called Sugar, where she also struggles. She struggles to navigate the dangerous music industry, where she's faced with a lot of misogyny and, sexual violence. She's forced to navigate a publishing company and a team that doesn't necessarily believe that she can authentically do that job. She's forced to navigate her own romantic relationships while she's looking for love. She has fraught friendships that she's trying to figure out how to manage, with her new job and in this new world. And she's also trying to become who she is. She's trying to figure out where she belongs. So it's a sexy story. It's a juicy story. There may be some anecdotes in there that I personally lived, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So it's called If I Ruled the World, and it's available wherever you buy books online.
Pre-orders. Great. That was going to be my last question, but I'll be remiss because one of the people that we always spoke about at our breakfast sessions was her son. How is that young man doing? My daughter now works for me in our company. She graduated with a digital media degree from the University of Houston with honors. So how's your son doing?
Oh, I'm so proud of her. Yay. Rashawn, my baby is 19 years old. He is a rising sophomore at Drexel University in the music industry program. He's a music producer.
Great.
He's a DJ.
Great.
He is a brilliant, lovely young man. And right now he is backpacking through Europe with a friend of his, I swear to God. He's in Vienna at the moment. So my child is doing really well. I appreciate you asking.
That's kind of like his mama. That's kind of like his mama.
You know what I'm saying? We out here having adventures, though. What we not going to do is live this life for our work alone. We going to have adventures.
She's incredible. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really would. Like I said, I saw this little note on LinkedIn. Ladies and gentlemen, LinkedIn. She used LinkedIn, and that's why I found out about her book. And I said, hey, I want to come on, bring you on my show. So again, If I Ruled the World is available now. Go to any Amazon, any place you buy your books, it'll be available. Thank you, Amy, for coming on Money Making Conversations Masterclass.
I appreciate you, Rashawn, as always.